All right, I finally got done watching Black Mirror Season 7, and I figured it could be fun to give a rankings of all of the episodes and also talk about the season as a whole and the series as a whole. Because, real quick, just my experience with Black Mirror before we get into Season 7, it's a show that there was a point where if you asked me what's my favorite show, I probably would have said Black Mirror. I mean, I was all in, and while most people talk about the first two seasons kind of being really where the show peaked, I would argue season 3 still had some of the best episodes of the series, with Shut Up and Dance being one of my favorites, also San Junipero being a very strong one. And while season 4 I think wasn't quite as strong as the first 3, it still had some good stuff there. So yeah, there was a point when I thought Black Mirror was kind of can't miss television. However, after season 4, it was essentially nearly a 2-year break with only 3 episodes, and of those 3 episodes, there was Striking Vipers and Smithereens, which are both okay but not great. And then obviously there was the Miley Cyrus episode, which a lot of people were not a fan of. I thought it was fine, but still not great. The show was definitely not at its peak in season 5, and in season 6, I thought it kind of continued that downward trajectory and got a little bit weird. Well, again, there were some episodes I enjoyed. I enjoyed Beyond the Sea. I enjoyed Lock Henry. Those episodes I thought were good. Then I decided to get into almost like Stephen King style supernatural stuff with a couple of episodes, which felt very out of left field. And it almost just, you kind of had to wonder, has Black Mirror lost its way a little bit? So I wasn't even fully sure if I was going to watch season 7, even though this was a show I at one point thought was great. But the thing about Black Mirror is it's just so easy to just throw on an episode. If you don't like it, you don't have to keep watching, and you don't have to worry about, watching another episode a month later because you won't have to remember anything from the previous episode, right? They're all contained. So, yeah, I decided to watch this season, and I have to say, it feels like, I don't know if it fully feels like old Black Mirror, but it certainly feels of that quality. It had a couple of, I thought, great episodes in this series. I would definitely say that as a whole, I had a very good time with season 7. So if you're like me and really enjoyed the early stuff, have not been crazy about the last couple of seasons, I would still say this one's a season worth checking out. So that is my feelings on season 7 as a whole. Now let's get into the rankings itself. Let's talk about them, and let's go from worst to best. So yeah, let's just get into it, starting off with number 6. Number 6 for me is Hotel Riviere, which was the third episode of this season. It is the episode where you have a new technology that allows a woman to go back into a film from the past where she can act out the scenes in real time, and essentially in 90 minutes be able to make an entire movie. There were a couple of reasons why this didn't work for everybody, and I would still say as a whole, it wasn't like the worst episode or worst, the time I had watching it or anything. There was a couple things that I saw a lot of people didn't like about this one. First, just the technology itself was kind of confusing. What's the point of making something like this where you can then go back into a different movie, and would people actually watch that? Maybe for the novelty of it, but is that really a thing people would go through? What's exactly the logic there? But I don't know. There's weird stuff happening in media right now with all this AI stuff, and I think it's at least within the realm of possibilities that I could see somebody trying it. So that didn't bother me too much. And also, sometimes to make a show work, you have to say, yeah, this is kind of a weird thing that wouldn't really happen, but let's just go with it, right? So it wasn't that. It didn't ruin it for me that way. Also, a lot of people weren't crazy about Issa Rae's performance in this one, and I do have to say, if you're gonna build a character as, she is an A-list actor, she does kind of have to be able to act really well in the movie, otherwise it doesn't fully work, right? I think that's kind of fair when we see her acting. I do think though that while a lot of people were blaming the performance, I think that this was an intentional decision to have her performance feel kind of hammy compared to the other performances in the film, with Emma Corrin being kind of the key one here, of them being more old Hollywood. It's supposed to be kind of a clash between modern times and classic Hollywood. I did feel though with the classic Hollywood characters, if you notice, they weren't full classic Hollywood. They did kind of get maybe take one step closer to what we are today. And maybe it would have been better if Issa Rae also kind of did the same thing. Maybe it would have made them clash a little bit less. But all that is what it is. To me, what didn't really work for this episode was, it's one of those things that I really like a good love story when a film can do it right. I always hate when movies go with like and then they just fell in love. Like, I kind of want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to feel the emotions that they are feeling. It felt very like jarring of like, oh yeah, now they're in love now, and that's the thing. And it felt almost like slow paced in the first half and then very rushed through in the second half. So I never really felt the story beats and the emotions that I think this was trying to get me to feel. So because of that, just wasn't one that fully worked, and definitely felt like one of the, one of the worst, one of the Black Mirror episodes from, it felt like a season 6 or 5 episode, quite frankly. Number 5 on the list is Bete Nore, which is the episode where you have a woman named Maria who ends up finding things a little bit strange when one of her former classmates from back in the day named Variety joins the company that she works for, and things start to get a little bit off. And it's almost like her version of reality isn't what everyone else's version of reality is. This is one where we don't see any technology right away, and it's very much about the mystery. And I have to say, I think the mystery as a whole and the build-up was awesome. It was like one of my favorite setups of any of these episodes. I just didn't love the payoff. I'm trying to not spoil it in case you haven't seen it, but it just felt a little bit like too far-fetched for me. And there's kind of an old adage, which is an audience will believe anything if you tell it to them in the first act, but they won't believe anything if you tell it to them later on. I think about the vampire episode, the werewolf episode, which was a clear example of this from last season, where the audience is kind of used to, okay, Black Mirror technology stuff happens, but like when a werewolf shows up, then it's like, well, wait a second, that's completely out of left field, even though like if the werewolf was in the first 10 minutes, then it would have totally been fine. We would have been ready for it. We would have understood that that's what we're watching, right? And while the ending of this was definitely technology-based, it was essentially like mumbo-jumbo technology that's not even possible to actually have exist. So because of that, that's why I was a little bit not quite as on board with this one. Still really liked the setup and thought there was some great stuff in here, but just wasn't a huge fan of that. So that's why it's number 5. Number 4 on my list, we're really getting into the episodes I consider to be really good. I'm going with Common People, which was the first episode, which was a medical emergency leaves someone, played by Rashida Jones, on her last legs, so to speak, but due to a new technology, she is able to still remain alive as long as she is within an internet connection, basically. While at first this technology is a blessing for Rashida Jones' character and for Chris O'Dowd's character who plays her husband, it quickly becomes less than that as the company starts to get more and more nefarious. While there's a lot of comparisons to Netflix itself and to these streaming companies constantly, selling you one thing but then making it worse and worse and charging you more and more and just completely bleeding dry every cent that they can get out of you, clearly there is a connection as well to America's healthcare system, even though Charlie Booker is not American. You can't help but feel like that is a connection that is trying to be made here with how if you have a medical condition that you need something from, it is not free in every single country, and it's not just America, but America obviously the kind of the only like major country with as much money as it has that you have to still pay for this and be essentially at the whim of whatever the company decides. But before going too far down that rabbit hole, just the episode itself, this is a bleak episode. This is dark, and this is Black Mirror level of dark, right? This is a bad thing, and quite frankly, I mean, the only reason why it's so low is because, like, as a narrative, you kind of just know it's not going to end well pretty early on. Like, at least for me, I kind of felt like, yeah, okay, I know this isn't going to, I sort of know where this is going at this point. It didn't really take a ton of twists and turns from that point forward. You kind of knew he was going to take, when the dummies thing shows up, you kind of know how that's going to play into this plot, right? You just sort of are able to pick up on all those things relatively quickly, but it's a story that has a clear point. It tells that point well, and this was a very smart episode to start off with by saying, hey, this is what we're doing here. This is a new, a new, not a new Black Mirror, but we're going back to the old stuff here. And I think it was a great way for us, right off the bat. You're like, oh, okay, this feels more like early Black Mirror stuff. This doesn't feel like season 5 and 6 Black Mirror stuff. So yeah, very much. Wouldn't say I enjoyed the episode, but a very good episode and a very Black Mirror episode. Number 3, I am going with USS Callister Into Infinity, an episode that, I'll be honest, when I first saw that they were making a sequel to USS Callister, the one from back, the first episode of season 4, I was a bit on the fence about it, quite frankly, because I was like, I thought that episode did a totally fine job at telling a contained story the way that these things always do. It almost felt a little bit like, are we doing a marketing stunt here? Is that what's happening? Why are we going with another episode? It's very much not what Black Mirror is about. But ultimately, again, given the fact that I've enjoyed the first 5 episodes, this is the last episode of this series, I felt more confident heading into this one that there would be a real story here, and that ended up being the case. This was very much a real story. This felt like not a sequel for just trying to get more eyeballs on the show, but because they had another story to tell and thought that they could tell it well and did a pretty good job. There's definitely a lot of plot conveniences in this one, which has always kind of been an issue that's bugged me with Black Mirror, is certain things. Like, oh, if you do this one thing, then all of this will happen. There's a lot of that stuff that does happen, but ultimately that's so much not the point of a lot of these episodes, and as long as they don't get too bogged down in that, I can still enjoy it. It's just another fun episode. The performances are all great. Once again, I love the chemistry that all these characters have. A lot of people said that they want to watch a whole show just about this. I think I'm fine with just the occasional one-off here and there, but I certainly enjoy it. My favorite performance is one. I will not spoil who it was because I think that it's good to be a surprise as to who they are. But they only show up in one location, but it is a very fun, very good sequence there. It's just a fun action movie that you actually do feel the stakes. So. Action movie basically is an action movie, right? It's I think an hour and a half runtime. So essentially this is, again, these are all essentially feature-length movies, because technically feature-length doesn't mean quite as long as usually it ends up being, but it's this one's an hour and 29 minutes. It's a feature-length movie and a fun one. So yeah, number 3 on my list. Number 2, I am going with Plaything, which I just had a blast with. I was a little surprised when I saw that this one is actually the, I was looking at IMDb just to have something up while I'm reading this. I'm most surprised. See, this was the second lowest rated of the episode, of the season, excuse me, which is a little surprising because I just had a blast with this one. I thought that it was so fun with all the music and the lighting, especially the way those paired together throughout this film. I thought that the Louis Gribbin and then also Peter Capaldi, both of them felt like the same person, even though they were playing, they were two different ages. Always fun to see Will Poulter show up and do his thing. So acting was very good. But first, I got to explain what the episode even was about, which is we see an older man purposely seemingly get arrested for shoplifting. We later find out that he has been accused of murders, or at least linked to a murder, and he tells the story then of a very bizarre video game that he got his hands on. And I just was all in on this story. The lightning fast pacing. My only complaint about this, it was only 45 minutes. I would have loved to see this one get the, feature-length, film-length treatment, because I thought that it was, again, just really fun to see him kind of grow and seeing the playthings, seeing the characters, the little guys, and seeing how different people viewed that differently. I just found it to be such an interesting dynamic. Well, I could see some people wanting more out of the ending itself. Again, I didn't think I needed more out of the ending itself. I think we got it. We understood what it was going for. Again, I would have liked to see the whole runtime as a whole be longer, just because I had so much fun living in that world and seeing, that character of Cameron was his name, and seeing how he operated. A lot of people weren't crazy about how one of the I saw online, a lot of people not crazy about how one of the police officers was written. I don't fully disagree. It could have been a little bit better there, but just the storytelling and the intrigue of this new video game and what that meant for Cameron, I found to be just such a fun watch. So yeah, this is number 2 on my personal list of my favorites, but number 1, I am going with Eulogy. Interestingly enough, my 3 favorites were the last 3 episodes. Eulogy was the second to last episode, which is an isolated man played by Paul Giamatti, is introduced to a system where he can literally step into old photographs and memories, and this is the purpose of this system is due to helping out eulogies and helping out funeral services in general, as someone who he used to know has passed away. And this system can kind of help with the service of getting more information about that person for those who are grieving the loss of that person. The company is called Eulogy, which is why the episode is called that. And this is a fascinating watch. So first off, you have Paul Giamatti, who's just the best. He's Paul Giamatti. Well, what else needs to be said about him? He's fantastic. But obviously, when you're tackling such a heavy theme such as this, of when someone you used to know dies, and maybe you wish you could have said things and still haven't gotten over them, and all of those types of things, there's so much emotions that it's gonna come out there, especially when the person that, one of the subjects here has passed away. You don't get any more than that. You know from the jump there is not going to be this perfectly happy ending. And while this could have just been completely bleak, Charlie Brooker decided, along with Ella Road, who had a writing credit as well in this, decided to take this in a bit of a unique direction, where Paul Giamatti's character is not a perfect guy who's just down on his luck. He's made plenty of mistakes, and in fact, you could argue he is the reason that he is in the situation that he is in, that he feels the negative emotions that he has felt. But to me, that's far more fascinating than just making a guy who's nice and unfortunately bad things happen to him. And far more of what Black Mirror has always been about, which is not telling perfect stories about perfect people, but telling imperfect stories about imperfect people. Because after all, during most breakups, it's not that one party was perfect and the other party was horrible. Usually there was some disruption in one way or the other, and I find it just interesting that we get the side of a story from a someone who definitely did not behave properly in a lot of instances, and how does he grapple with that? How does he grapple with the fact that he has made regrets that has put him in this spot, and he's still in this spot, and there's never going to be a reconciliation fully. A lot of people have brought up, I'm not the first to bring this up, but the comparisons to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but almost in reverse, where instead of that, he's slowly losing his memories, and this, he's slowly looking into his memories and remembering things from his past. There's also another one this makes me think of is the film Paris, Texas, which is maybe my favorite movie ever made. And so if you like Eulogy, check out Paris, Texas. There is some similarities of another film about a sort of broken man who has done wrong things and is now living with those things. Just a really fascinating watch, and honestly, I think one of the best episodes that this whole series has come up with. So yeah, Charlie Brooker, you're back in my opinion. Absolutely had a blast with this season. Not every episode I thought was great. Even a couple I would say were outright just kind of mid, but ultimately that's okay, because the good was really good in my opinion. So yeah, if you are, if you want to watch, if you're still on the fence and you watched all this video, I would suggest, at least check out, the couple I put at the top of the list. And if you like those, check out the other ones. But let me know in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree? Because, this is subjective. You can maybe like something better in different ways. I don't know. Let me know. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.